talking, and I was like, yo, I'm watching him, right? This keep playing with his phone. Like, you just play with their phone all the time, bro. I'm like, yo, what the is wrong with this, right? I swear to God, was writing what I said down.
That hurt a lot. You know what I'm talking about? It hurt a whole lot.
50 Cent's got a reputation as one of the biggest bullies in hip-hop, and that title didn't come out of nowhere. From clashing with rivals to falling out with friends and even taking shots at his own family, he's always been in the middle of something wild. People once blamed him for destroying New York hip-hop, but that couldn't be further from the truth. 50's been fighting to save the culture for years, just in his own savage way. Now, when it comes to Diddy, that's where things really heat up. Folks say 50's just a hater for calling him out, but 50's been talking for years, saying stuff like Puffy wanted to take him shopping and hinting that some strange things go down at Diddy's parties. It's no secret he's been on Diddy's neck for a long time, but recently, things flipped. Diddy ended up arrested on charges like trafficking, racketeering, and even transporting people to engage in illegal acts, just a day after he was caught at a Manhattan hotel in late 2024. Then came the leaked footage of him attacking his ex, Cassie. What a turn of events. When the feds raided Diddy's mansion, reports say they found a whole lot of baby oil. Yeah, that detail had everybody's eyebrows raised. While Diddy's managed to beat a few of the charges, he's still waiting on sentencing for the rest, and now people are starting to replay 50 Cent's old warnings like he predicted all of this. And you already know 50 didn't let that slide quietly. He went on a full-blown posting spree. He didn't just have a field day, he had a field year. The man dropped post after post, trolling, teasing, and throwing shade every chance he got. But here's where it gets even spicier. 50 didn't stop with Diddy. He decided to drag another one of his longtime frenemies into the mix, Jay-Z. People were like, why is he bringing up Jay now? Well, 50's been side-eyeing Jay-Z's silence through all this mess. He straight up questioned why Jay's still standing by Diddy after everything that's come out. 50 even posted throwback pics of Diddy and Jay together, captioning them with, friends till the end, Jay still there, and followed up with another one saying, Jay in hibernation. He ain't coming outside till this stuff with Puff blow over. No brunch, no lunch, no dinner. LOL, I'm all you got. I'm outside. Those posts hit hard. Fans saw them as 50 directly calling out Jay for keeping quiet while the world watched Diddy's downfall unfold. But let's be real. Diddy's not the only one 50 Cent's been warning hip-hop about all these years. He's been sounding alarms about Jay-Z too, though not in the exact way people might expect. Yeah, he's called out Jay's silence on the Diddy situation and even mentioned some shady vibes at Rock Nation parties. But that's just scratching the surface. 50's been trying to tell everyone who Jay really is behind the polished image, the way he runs his empire, how he moves in business, and how cold his strategy can get when it comes to power. Even if you're not into business, you can sense how ruthless that game is, and 50 knows that better than anyone. He's warned folks time and time again that Jay will do whatever it takes to come out on top, even if it means watching the people around him take the fall. Back in 2009, 50 even said, he has a king complex. He thinks he's Jesus. You know what I mean? This Jehovah stuff. That quote alone had the whole industry talking, but he didn't stop there. 50 also pointed out how Jay treats artists under his Rockefeller label. According to him, Jay used to preach Rock La Familia, We Family, but 50 claimed that was just talk. He hinted that behind the scenes, it wasn't all love, it was business, and Jay always made sure he stayed the boss. Jay-Z might have preached about loyalty and family, but when it came to business, he played by his own rules. According to 50, Jay never really had anyone else's interests at heart. He was all about securing his own bag. Some people wondered if 50's just bitter about Jay's success, but the receipts say otherwise. Jay showed his ruthless side early on, back in 2004, when he sold Rockefeller Records without fully letting his partner Dame Dash know what was really going down. Sure, co-founders Damon Dash and Biggs Burke got their fair share of the sale, but Jay walked away with all the real power. Behind the scenes, he struck a secret $30 million side deal to become president of Def Jam, and get this, he managed to reclaim almost all his masters in that same move. That's cold business. After the split, Dame tried to bounce back by launching his own label, Dame Dash Music Group, but it shut down within 2 years. Things got rough, and to make some money and distance himself from Jay, he sold his stake in the Rocawear clothing brand for $22 million. Sounded like a smart play, until Jay flipped the script again. Just 2 years later, he sold Rocawear for a massive $204 million, leaving Dame out of nearly $180 million in profit. That move had the industry buzzing. But for 50 Cent, this whole thing hit deeper than just the Dame Dash versus Jay-Z saga. He's always believed Jay only looks out for himself and the artist who can boost his legacy. 50 even told Rolling Stone in 2009, "As far as artists he works with, I think he completely has his best interest in mind." And remember, this came just 2 years after 50 lost that historic album sales battle against Kanye West's Graduation. The timing made his comments sting even more. When Kanye's Graduation outsold 50's Curtis, it looked like a clean win. But 50's been saying for years that things weren't as simple as they seemed. He's hinted more than once that the whole sales battle might have been a setup and that Jay-Z had his fingerprints all over it. See, back then, 50 boldly declared that if Kanye outsold him, he'd retire from rap for good. It was supposed to be a friendly competition, but behind the scenes, it turned into something way bigger. Losing that battle didn't just hit 50's sales, it threatened his dominance as New York's top rapper. And in Jay's eyes, that meant everything. In his book, Hustle Harder, Hustle Smarter, 50 laid it all out. He said, Jimmy Iovine might not have cared about beating Kanye, but Jay-Z, who was head of Def Jam at the time, damn sure cared about beating me. According to 50, Jay had been uncomfortable with his run in New York for years and wanted to see that crown slip. He did everything under the sun to make sure he could beat me through Kanye, 50 explained. That's not just competition. That's a chess move straight out of Jay's playbook. Now, maybe you believe Kanye won fair and square and Jay-Z was just backing up his artist. That's your take. And honestly, you might not be wrong. But the next situation makes 50's claim that Jay only looks out for himself hit way harder. After stepping into the role of Def Jam president and later launching Roc Nation, Jay surrounded himself with rising stars: Kanye West, Rihanna, J. Cole, Nicki Minaj, Usher, Madonna, the list goes on. He used those powerhouse connections to launch his own streaming service, Tidal, which was sold to the public as "for artists, by artists." Jay even handed out small ownership stakes to some of the biggest names in music, promising them a platform that finally paid creators what they deserved. But before long, the shine started to fade. By 2016, Kanye West had walked away, reportedly still owed around $3 million. That's not a good look for a company claiming to be all about fair treatment for artists. Then came 2021, when Jay sold Tidal for a massive $297 million, a move that earned him a huge payday. But not everyone was celebrating that bag. Nicki Minaj, one of Tidal's early supporters and biggest promoters, came out saying she never got paid. That bombshell had fans questioning everything. Music exec Steve Stout tried to defend Jay, saying Nicki never signed the official paperwork, but Nicki wasn't having it. She clapped back, saying she was pressured to sign for just $1 million to stay quiet about the whole situation. She saw that deal as nothing but a setup, and instead of staying silent, she walked away completely. That fallout made people start wondering, was Jay really building something for artists, or just building another empire for himself? In the end, Nicki Minaj probably wishes she'd listened to 50's public warning. That Jay-Z doesn't really ride for his artists, only himself. But crazy enough, that still wasn't the last thing to back up 50's claims about Jay's selfish ways. Fast forward to 2019, and Jay-Z shocked everybody when he signed a partnership deal with the NFL. Yeah, the same league that blackballed Colin Kaepernick for taking a knee during the national anthem. What was supposed to look like a powerful move for social justice ended up being one of Jay's most controversial decisions ever. Through Roc Nation, Jay's company became the NFL's official partner for both entertainment and social justice initiatives. Sounds great on paper, right? Another big money deal, more control, and major influence. The partnership gave Jay's team the power to produce Super Bowl halftime shows and lead the league's Inspire Change campaign, moves that boosted his business profile overnight. But here's where people got heated. Colin Kaepernick was still out of a job. Despite being good enough to play, no team would touch him after his protests against police brutality. So when Jay stepped in and made nice with the NFL, a lot of folks saw it as a straight-up betrayal. To them, it looked like he was helping the same league that blackballed Kaepernick without ever holding them accountable. That's why critics said Jay didn't stand with the movement. He stood over it. That infamous quote sent shockwaves through the culture. Critics were furious. Jay-Z wasn't moving past kneeling. He was moving past Colin. Kaepernick's longtime partner, Nessa Diab, called Jay's move disgusting and disappointing. while former 49ers safety Eric Reid flat out said Jay was just chasing a money bag. The backlash was intense. To a lot of fans, it looked like Jay traded activism for influence, helping the NFL repair its image while Colin still had no justice, no job, and no fair shot back in the league. People couldn't believe that someone once hailed as a voice for change seemed to be siding with the very system that silenced one of their own. But in Jay's defense, there was an effort made. The NFL organized a private workout for Kaepernick in November 2019, something that was reportedly pushed by Jay himself behind the scenes. Still, things didn't go as planned. Kaepernick suddenly switched the workout location at the last minute, saying he had major concerns about transparency. He didn't trust that the NFL's closed-door setup, where the media wasn't allowed, would give a fair view of what really happened. He wanted the truth out there for everyone to see. Only a handful of scouts ended up showing at the new location, and afterward, the NFL claimed Colin had blown his chance. It was heartbreaking. He never played another game in the league again. Meanwhile, Jay-Z kept his partnership with the NFL going strong. And that partnership, believe it or not, would soon lead to a wild run-in with none other than 50 Cent back in 2022. Rumors started flying that Jay-Z didn't want 50 Cent performing at the Super Bowl halftime show, supposedly because of their long-running tension. But the twist? Eminem refused to perform unless 50 was included. That loyalty shook things up. 50 didn't seem shocked at all, though. He's been saying for years that Jay's always been cold, competitive, and only about business since way back in the 2000s. But the story didn't end there. Just 2 years later, Jay allegedly pulled a similar move with another halftime lineup decision. Fans remember Nicki Minaj's fallout with Jay over Tidal and the whole YMCMB crew. That's Lil Wayne, Drake, and the rest of the squad. And as history shows...
So he was like, what are you doing with the album? And I was like, man, I'm not thinking about that. He's like, I get you're grieving, but you gotta like get out of this shit and stop being selfish. You did all this great work and now you're just gonna like abandon it because you're sad, you're depressed. You know, he would push me. He'd be like, yo, what we doing with? He was like, you gotta do this for his.
Jay's had a complicated past with them too. So when 2024 rolled around and the NFL announced that Kendrick Lamar, Drake's biggest rival, would be performing at the 2025 Super Bowl, fans lost it. Why? Because the show was set for New Orleans, Lil Wayne's hometown. People thought Jay's choice wasn't just business, it was personal. It looked like a slick power move aimed right at YMCMB, leaving Wayne and Drake on the sidelines while their rival took center stage. And Nicki? She didn't hold back at all. She spoke up, letting the world know she saw the decision as pure disrespect. Even Birdman jumped in, tweeting about the situation and seemingly calling Jay-Z soft. Plus a few other things that definitely got social media buzzing. It felt like another chapter in Jay's long list of quiet but calculated moves that left his rivals heated. Something nobody but 50 himself could have seen coming. And Lil Wayne, he was furious. Word is, he felt straight up disrespected by the Super Bowl lineup choice. Sure, a lot of fans argued that Jay-Z didn't technically do anything wrong. After all, Kendrick Lamar had been dominating the charts and fully earned that spotlight. But if you ask anyone from the YMCMB camp, they'd probably say it was another slick move that proved what 50 Cent's been yelling for years. Jay-Z only looks out for himself and always plays to win. No matter how many times people brushed him off, 50 kept trying to expose what he saw as industry games. His warnings about Diddy and Jay seemed to fall on deaf ears. But one thing about 50, he never stopped trying to protect hip-hop. He's always seen himself as the guy calling out the fakes and trying to steer the game back to its roots. But even with all his efforts, some young artists still ended up paying the price. One of them was 6ix9ine, who exploded onto the scene in 2018 with his wild music and even wilder online antics. The internet couldn't stop talking about him. He was everywhere, trending non-stop. The buzz got so big that even 50 took notice. Instead of clowning him, he actually embraced and defended the young rapper. 50 said things like, "I'm telling you, the kids love the young boy. He's working on himself. We all have things we should work on." That moment showed a softer side of 50, a guy who's been through it all but still saw potential in the next generation trying to make it. 50 Cent didn't sugarcoat it when it came to the new generation. He once said, "If you don't like the music, make something better. Until then, shut up." That's classic 50, real, raw, and straight to the point. But even with that tough love, 50 saw something deeper when it came to 6ix9ine. Being as sharp as he is, 50 noticed early that the young rapper was headed down a dangerous road. Tekashi wasn't just trolling for clout. he was heavily involved with TR3Y Way, also known as the 9 Trey Bloods, a gang that helped boost his image and hype up his music online. The wild energy, the beefs, the chaos, it was all part of the image, but 50 could tell it was about to backfire in a major way. From the sidelines, 50 was watching everything unfold like a slow-motion crash. He knew 6ix9ine wasn't really the gangster he was pretending to be, and he actually tried to steer him in a better direction multiple times. That's how deep 50's awareness ran. He understood how quickly that lifestyle could destroy someone's career. Or worse, when they dropped Get the Strap, featuring 6ix9ine and Casanova, 50 even made sure to publicly separate himself from any gang ties, making it clear he was just about the music. And speaking of Casanova, 50 saw warning signs there too. He tried to put him on game before things went left, even though 50 did everything he could to warn Tekashi 6ix9ine. By the time the young rapper finally decided to listen, it was already too late. On November 16th, 2018, 6ix9ine went public saying he was officially cutting ties with Treyway, but just 2 days later, his entire world flipped upside down. On November 18th, 2018, 6ix9ine, his former manager and 3 other associates were all arrested in a massive FBI takedown tied to the 9 Trey gangsters. It turned out this investigation had been building for months, maybe even years, and the feds were ready to make their move. What once looked like music videos and online beefs suddenly became evidence in a criminal case that shook hip-hop to its core. Looking back, 50's verse on Get the Strap hits totally different now, like a warning hiding in plain sight. Every lyric carried weight once the truth came out about what was happening behind the scenes. And it wasn't just 6ix9ine 50. His entourage and even Casanova, another artist 50 had tried to warn, ended up facing major legal trouble too. Sadly, everything 50 had feared came true right before everyone's eyes. It proved that 50 wasn't just being dramatic. He really saw the storm, even after everything went down. 50 Cent didn't just walk away, he actually tried to step in like a real one. He wanted to see just how deep 6ix9ine was in trouble, and according to reports, he even tried to send a lawyer to help the kid out. That's loyalty. But once again, by the time 50 made that move, it was already too late. He eventually found out that 6ix9ine had started cooperating with the FBI, and that changed everything. When 50 learned about that, he distanced himself completely and stopped calling Tekashi his long-lost son. Their bond, which had once looked like a mentor-student thing, was officially over. From that point on, 6ix9ine's career went downhill fast. Multiple arrests, IRS trouble, losing luxury cars and jewelry, and even that infamous incident where he got caught on camera getting jumped at an LA Fitness. The flashy lifestyle had flipped into a cautionary tale. But what's wild is that wasn't the only young New York artist 50 tried to save before things turned tragic. Another rising star had caught his attention, the Brooklyn drill king Pop Smoke. Pop lit up the scene in 2019 with his breakout hit, Welcome to the Party, a track that instantly took over the streets and got everyone's attention. Even Nicki Minaj jumped on the remix, but she wasn't the only big name who noticed Pop's unstoppable rise, coming before anyone else did. Pop Smoke's rise was impossible to ignore. His energy, his voice, his whole vibe made the entire industry take notice. From the jump, people were calling him the new 50 Cent, and instead of getting defensive, 50 showed nothing but love. He immediately stepped up to mentor Pop, shutting down anyone claiming the young star was copying his style. 50 truly saw something special in Pop. He admired his drive, his hunger, and his authenticity. The two built a real connection, one built on respect and genuine care. Pop looked up to 50 like a big brother in the game. He even started writing down every piece of advice 50 gave him, taking notes on how to move smarter and protect his career. 50 later shared that Pop had begun listening, really listening, and was trying to clean up the people around him, cutting off bad influences and focusing on the music. You could tell Pop was growing, maturing, and ready to take things to the next level. But then, heartbreak hit. On February 19th, 2020, in Los Angeles, Pop Smoke was tragically killed during a home invasion gone wrong. It was a devastating loss for hip-hop. And for 50, it was another painful reminder of how fast a bright future can be taken away. Everybody knows Pop Smoke's death remains one of the saddest moments hip-hop has ever witnessed. His potential was just starting to break through, both as an artist and as a young man finding his voice. 50 Cent was deeply moved by Pop's passing. He didn't just grieve, he stepped up. He took on the role of executive producer for Pop's posthumous album Shoot for the Stars, Aim for the Moon, and even convinced Pop's entire team to finish the project the right way. That showed how much he truly cared. The album became a masterpiece, an emotional tribute that kept Pop's name alive and cemented his legacy forever. But beyond the music, it was proof that 50's connection to Pop was real. He didn't see him as competition, he saw him as family. 50 could have easily brushed off Pop's sound as someone biting his style, but instead, he embraced it as homage, not imitation. That's the kind of respect and love 50 gives to those he believes in. He genuinely cared about Pop's growth, both as an artist and as a person, and it's clear he just wanted to see him win. Sadly, that story ended far too soon, but Pop's legacy still shines bright because 50 made sure of it. And crazy enough, Pop Smoke wasn't the only young artist who reminded 50 of himself. Before Pop, there was another rising star who shared that same raw energy and independence, Chief Keef. When Keef burst onto the scene, he was young, fearless, and completely unstoppable, doing everything his way. The moment 50 Cent heard Chief Keef's breakout hit, I Don't Like, he knew the kid was special. The raw energy, the attitude, the sound, it all reminded him of himself in his early days. 50 instantly took a liking to Chief Keef and made it clear he wanted to see him win big, even saying at one point that Keef felt like a son to him. That's how much belief he had in the young Chicago rapper. But with all that early fame came major responsibility, and that's where things started to get tricky. Chief Keef was still a teenager, trying to handle success most grown artists only dream of, and that kind of pressure can spin anyone's head fast. Around that time, he was signed to Interscope Records, who were getting ready to drop his debut album, Finally Rich. The label had everything lined up for a huge rollout, including a music video for his track Hate Being Sober featuring both 50 Cent and Wiz Khalifa. For a new artist, getting that kind of collaboration in 2012 was massive. It wasn't just about the fame, it was a major investment from the label, with big names and big money attached. But when the day of the video shoot came around, everyone showed up. 50, Wiz, the label team, the full production crew, everyone except Chief Keef. The young star was nowhere to be found. The label was confused, the crew was frustrated, and 50 could only shake his head. He knew this was the kind of mistake that could change everything. When Chief Keef skipped out on his own music video shoot, it shocked everyone, but especially 50 Cent. This wasn't just some small project. It was a huge moment for a rising star, and Keef's no-show left the entire team hanging. 50 couldn't believe what he was seeing. He even said, "Chief didn't show up to his own video. I never saw anything like this on a first song. It's not funny. Chief Keef didn't sell any records yet. They'll pull the plug on him." You could feel the frustration in his words. Now, some people wondered why 50 didn't just reach out to Keef directly instead of airing it out online, but he did. Behind the scenes, 50 genuinely tried to connect with him to help the young rapper understand the weight of his choices. Despite being disrespected, 50 didn't hold any grudges. He knew Keef was just a kid dealing with fame, pressure, and the wrong influences all at once. Just 5 days after the fiasco, 50 hit Twitter again, writing, "Chief Keef is my boy. I'm gonna get everything back in place for him. They were gonna just throw him out. I told them at Interscope, it's not him. He just has the wrong people around him." That showed how much 50 still believed in him, even after the embarrassment. 50 used his own reputation to vouch for Keef, pushing the label to give him a second chance, a move most executives would never risk. He knew better than anyone how brutal the industry could be. Once you mess up, the machine moves on without blinking. But sadly, Keef's second shot didn't last long. The same issues that 50 warned about came creeping back, proving that sometimes talent alone just isn't enough to save a career. Only weeks after Chief Keef dropped his debut album, Finally Rich, things took a dark turn. The young rapper was sentenced to 60 days in juvenile detention for violating his probation from an earlier gun charge. It was the exact kind of situation 50 Cent had feared from the start. When reporters asked 50 about it, he said, "With Chief Keef, it's unfortunate to hear that he's actually locked up. I feel bad because I feel like I knew this was gonna happen. I know what continues to happen afterwards if you let it spiral out of control." You could tell he wasn't just disappointed, he was heartbroken because he'd seen that story before. After serving his time, most people thought Chief Keef would finally slow down and straighten up, but that didn't happen. Just a few months later, on May 20th, 2013, he was arrested again. This time for disorderly conduct. And not even a month after that, in June 2013, he found himself in more trouble, pleading guilty to driving 110 miles per hour in a 55 zone with only a learner's permit. It was like he couldn't escape chaos. The judge, Earl Hoffenberg, didn't hold back. He looked Chief Keef dead in the eye and said, "I think you think that you're invincible, and you're certainly not. Violate conditions of the plea agreement, and you'll find out you're not. I sure hope I don't have to see you again, because if I do, you better be ready to go to jail." That line hit hard. It was like a final warning that Keef never took seriously. And sure enough, just 2 years after 50 Cent had fought tooth and nail to keep him signed, Interscope Records decided to drop Chief Keef. The label reportedly got tired of his constant legal drama and heated arguments about his career direction. It was a tough fall for someone who once looked unstoppable. Looking back, it's almost eerie how accurate 50's warnings were. Everything he tried to shield Chief Keef from, bad influences, bad decisions, and wasted opportunities, ended up happening right before everyone's eyes. 50 saw it coming from a mile away, but sometimes, even though Chief Keef went on to become a certified hip-hop icon, many agree that his early fame was the peak of his career, and definitely not the future 50 Cent had hoped for him. But believe it or not, Chief Keef wasn't the only major Chicago rapper 50 tried to guide. The next one was even closer to danger, and this time, 50's warning might have come just a little too late. 50's friendship with Lil Durk started around 2021 during the filming of the Power Powder Respect music video, the theme song for Power Book 4, Force, led by the fan-favorite character Tommy Egan. On set, 50 pulled Durk aside for a real talk. He told him straight up to watch the people around him. It wasn't just friendly advice. 50 had seen too many artists rise fast, only to fall because of the company they kept. Durk already had reason to be cautious. Earlier that same year, he and his girlfriend India Royale experienced a terrifying situation at their home in the upscale Chateau Elan neighborhood. Around 5:14 a.m., several unidentified people reportedly broke into their residence. Shots were fired between the intruders and Durk, but thankfully, no one was hurt. Still, the incident shook him to his core. After 50's warning, Durk started thinking hard about who really knew his moves. How did they even find my house, he wondered. Only a handful of people had that information, which made 50's question about his crew hit even harder. It was the kind of advice that stays in your head, especially when you start realizing the danger might be coming from inside your own circle. And as history would show, this wouldn't be the last time Durk had to face that exact fear. Even the best advice can't save someone who's not ready to listen. On October 25th, 2024, the hip-hop world was rocked when Lil Durk was arrested in connection with the murder of rapper Quando Rondo's cousin. The case traced back to a violent chain of events from years earlier. Reports claim that in 2022, Durk and members of his crew allegedly targeted Rondo's cousin in retaliation for the death of King Von, one of Durk's closest friends and assignee to his label, who had been tragically killed in 2020 by Quando Rondo's associate, Lil Tim. But that wasn't all. Far from it. Prosecutors hit Durk with heavy charges. 1 count of conspiracy, 1 count of using interstate facilities to commit murder for hire resulting in death, and 1 count of using, carrying, and discharging firearms or machine guns in furtherance of a violent crime that also resulted in death. Stacked together, these charges could mean life in prison if he's convicted. The situation was serious, and exactly the kind of outcome 50 Cent had tried to warn him about. To make things even worse, rumors started flying that someone from within Durk's own crew had allegedly worn a wire and cooperated with authorities. The accused person denied it on Instagram, but fans and insiders couldn't ignore how much the story lined up with 50's old advice. Watch who's around you. Once again, one of hip-hop's brightest stars was caught in the very storm 50 had tried to steer him away from. And while Durk's case serves as another cautionary tale, it's not the only one. There was another artist who ignored 50's guidance, and it cost him everything. This next rapper went from chart-topping success and a reported $22 million fortune to losing it all and spending years behind bars. You already know who we're talking about. Fetty Wap, the hitmaker behind Trap Queen, Again, My Way, 679, and more. 50 had shown him love too, even calling him Uncle Fifth out of respect. But that love couldn't stop what was coming next. You couldn't walk down a block without hearing Fetty Wap's voice blasting from someone's car, a store speaker, or people straight up singing his hooks. He owned the airwaves, his melodies were everywhere. That unstoppable run made history when his first 4 singles all landed in the Billboard Hot 100 Top 10, something barely any artist had ever done. Fetty wasn't just hot, he was historic. But somehow, the Grammys didn't see it that way. Despite his dominance, Fetty Wap was completely snubbed from that year's nominations. Fans were stunned, and even 50 Cent spoke up saying, My Best New Artist award goes to Fetty Wap. He put some real hits out this year. They're overlooking him. They did the same thing to me. Get Rich or Die Trying sold 13 million copies. 50 knew firsthand how it felt to be shut out despite breaking records, and he wasn't afraid to call it out. Still, the Grammy snub was just the beginning of Fetty's downhill slide. After dominating charts and pulling in wild money, reports say he was making $100,000 a day and had built up over $22 million in earnings. Things suddenly started to crumble. His career went from superstar status to silence in what felt like the blink of an eye. So what happened? How does someone go from hit after hit to complete fade out? Well, part of it came down to label issues. Word around the industry was that Fetty slowed down on releasing new music because of disputes behind the scenes. After his massive success in 2015, he never dropped another full studio album for years, which killed his momentum. And right when things started looking shaky, 50 Cent tried to warn him. 50 had seen this movie before. Artists blowing up too fast, getting comfortable, and forgetting how cutthroat the business really is. But like many others before him, Fetty didn't listen. And what came next proved that 50's instincts were, once again, right on the money. Once you stop releasing music at that level, it's almost impossible to get that momentum back, and 50 Cent knew it. He warned Fetty Wap early on that slowing down could ruin everything. But even when things started falling apart, 50 never held it against him. Instead, he tried to lift him back up. 50 kept showing love, posting Fetty's music on his Instagram, reminding fans of the hits that once ruled every club and radio station. And in 2019, he even went a step further by booking Fetty Wap to perform at a power premiere party. A lot of fans clowned 50 for it, saying he was giving stage time to an artist whose buzz had already faded. But 50 didn't care about the noise. When someone commented under his post saying, "Dog fell off," 50 immediately clapped back, explaining the truth. He said it wasn't that Fetty lost his talent, it was contract drama that kept him stuck. He just had a contract issue. It makes an artist not want to make music, 50 wrote. He wanted people to understand the business side, how record label problems can crush even the biggest stars. Years after Fetty's fame had cooled off, 50 was still looking out for him. And that says a lot about who 50 really is. In an industry where most people disappear the second your spotlight fades, 50 stayed loyal. He didn't chase clout, he showed real friendship. In a world where fame is fickle and loyalty is rare, 50's willingness to help someone who'd already fallen shows. Just despite 50 Cent's best efforts to help Fetty Wap make a comeback, his decline only got worse. The glow that once surrounded Fetty had completely faded, and before long, trouble came knocking again. In October 2021, Fetty was arrested on federal charges for allegedly participating in a conspiracy to traffic large amounts of drugs into the New York City area. By 2023, he was sentenced to 6 years in prison, a shocking fall from grace for someone who once dominated the charts. In court, Fetty opened up about his mistakes. He told the U.S. District Judge, "Me being selfish in my pride put me in this position today." His lawyer explained that after the pandemic hit, money stopped flowing in, and Fetty turned to desperate measures just to stay afloat. But the big question still hangs in the air. How does someone who made over $22 million end up feeling broke enough to sell drugs? According to those close to him, Fetty's downfall came from reckless spending, not just on himself, but on everyone around him. Lavish lifestyles, handouts, endless expenses, it all added up fast. And without releasing new music or booking shows, the money that once seemed endless disappeared before he knew it. At the end of the day, all 50 Cent ever wanted was to help the people around him reach their full potential. Time after time, he's given opportunities, guidance, and second chances. But too often, what held others back wasn't lack of talent. It was laziness, ego, or bad decisions. Now, when you look back on 50's long career, some might say he's done just as much to destroy hip-hop as he's done to save it. But that's only one side of the story. Because yeah, 50's never been afraid of beef, drama, or calling people out, but he's also proven over and over again that his real mission has always been to protect and push the culture forward. He's a hustler, a mentor, and one of the last few still standing on real principles. No matter what anyone says, one thing is clear. 50 Cent has done more for hip-hop than most ever could, and nobody can take that away from him. If you enjoyed this deep dive into 50's journey, make sure to like, subscribe, share, and drop a comment below. Let's keep this conversation